So last day we have basically discussed about different type of parameters that we have in during function call, like actual parameter and formal parameter. And then we have seen that unlike call by value by a function, we can pass an address also, and that is what we call by reference, right? And in during call by reference we need somehow use of a pointer, and how using the pointer we can control the variable of the called function we have seen in the last class. Now today we will start with a very special type of function, and that is what we call recursion. So the topic for today is what we call recursion. So naturally question will come that so the first we will start with the definition. So question will come that what is a recursion, right? As I've said you that recursion is a function, that means I can define like recursion is a special type of function that call itself, sorry, until a base condition is satisfied. Sorry. So the function that call itself, so it looks very, it seems, it sounds very, you know I mean very unnatural, that how a function can call itself, and if it call itself then what's actually happening in the background. Like we have seen in our previous lectures that if we have a main function, then within the main function maybe I have some lines, and here I have called a function fun1, and some lines again, then I have called a function fun2, like this. So a function can be called from another function, even if we define a function fun1, for example. Within the function fun1 maybe I have a call function fun3. So this hierarchy we have seen in example in my previous class. Over here you see this one, we have discussed this part, right? And we have also seen that how they are actually how they communicate with each other, and in which order actually those functions are executed and returns. So, and in case of recursion, the definition is saying that function call itself. So that means if we want to find a example of a recursive function, that means a function having some recursion, then I must say I'll have something like, if we define a function fun, say fun1, say for example fun2, suppose fun2 is the recursive function. So I can somehow write fun2, let's define it. And within this fun2, we have a lot of statements. And then I will have a call of fun2 here again. You see, within the definition of fun2 function, we are calling the fun2 again. Now this can be a recursion, but still the definition is not completed in this particular example, because it is saying that the function call itself until a base condition is satisfied. That means you must have some criteria within this function, so that a time will come when this calling will stop. And if we don't have any criteria, then what will happen? Infinite time this fun2 will start calling this fun2 again. And as a result, what will happen? The execution will never stop. Because you see, according to this left example, we know that execution will start from this line of main function, then function 1 will call. So I will come this function 1, and after executing the last line, I mean maybe it will call function f3 fun3, and that function fun3 will return somewhere here, and after completion it will return to the main function here, and then it will continue. So execution will stop only when a function can properly return to its called function, I mean where it was called. If it does not return properly, then the execution will never stop. So same thing will happen here if we don't keep any criteria. Now maybe the criteria can be something like an if condition. If some condition is true, then it will be called. If the condition is false, then it will no more called. Now how I will keep the condition, what I should write, that we will realize it very soon. But just try to realize the skeleton of a recursive function. A skeleton of recursive function looks something like this. That we will have some um, we will define some function, and within the function we will call the same function name, and definitely it should be restricted for some amount of calling, so that infinite time calling will not happen. Now question is that the first question will come in your mind, that ultimately what is the purpose of this, why I will call the same function within this function. You see, always remember one thing. If you think solving any problem where you will have a multiple task, I mean not multiple task, I must say that a task having multiple times to execute, then there are actually two ways you can use that. So what are the ways? Number one that we can use is called, the approach name we call iterative approach. And what is an example of this iterative approach? For example, any loop, that means for or while or do while, can be an iterative approach, where we know that how this for loop while loop works, so I'm not going in detail of that. Now another approach that we have in our hand is we call recursive approach, and this is what actually we are trying to understand here. Now what this recursive approach means, you can say here the recursive approach, what it does, you can say that it breaks the problem, the actual problem, into uh, a combination of sub problems. Okay, and so on. And in this way, we solve these sub problems first, okay, such that the combination of solve of the sub problems can lead to the solution of the actual problem. What does it mean? Again, it's not very clear, I know. So let's try to realize with an example. For example, a very well-known example. Let's come with a very well-known example. Like, let's take a function f equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus, say for example, 4. Okay, and you see, suppose you have to add these two numbers. I mean, a program you have to write that will basically find the summation from 1 to n. So here I have considered n is equal to 4. Now how you can solve this problem? You can say that I will write a very simple code, like say for example, uh, I will write something like sum equal to 0, and I will write a for loop I equal to 1, I less than equal to 4, I plus plus, and I will write sum equal to sum plus I. When the loop will break, the sum variable will have the result of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Now this is obviously a valid solution, but this is what the iterative approach is that we have done. Now in some cases you will realize that the iterative solution is going to be very tough. Realizing how iteratively the solution will come will be tough. So in that case, recursive solutions are very easy to realize and obviously easy to write. So now to realize the recursive solution, you have to realize this particular situation, that somehow how I can break down the actual problem into combination of sub problems and so on. So on means actually each sub problem can be divided into combination of more sub problems, something like that. So for example, in this case, so this is what our iterative solution we know. Now how we can think about the recursive solution? You see, I can say that okay, try to realize in a different way how the recursive solution will come. That suppose I have given the problem to you, okay, So it's from your perspective, the problem is f equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Or let's do one thing. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's define in opposite way. Okay, let's write in opposite way so that you realize it. So 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. Okay, now you see, suppose this problem I have given to you, and what you have done, and assume that you are very lazy, you don't want to do all these additions. So what you have done, you have taken a different approach. What you have done, you have kept this 4 in your hand and passed this part to one of your friend and told him, you have told him that do one thing, you add 1 to 3, 1 and 1 plus 2 plus 3 and give me the result. You have told to your friend. So obviously it's very easy, your friend can, you know, find the result of this one and give the result to you, and you will, what you will do? You will just add the result that you will get from your friend with the 4 that you have in your hand. Then you will get the actual result. I mean, actual result of the whole 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. It's very easy. The problem is that how your friend is thinking. What the job from your friend perspective? From your friend's perspective, his job is something like this: 3 plus 2 plus 1. Right? This is for you and this is for your friend. Now assume that your friend is basically your clone. What does clone mean? Clone means that functionally the two entities are same. That means the approach of thinking style are same, but physically they are apart. That is a basic idea of clone, right? So if your friend is your clone, that means your friend is also thinking in the same way that you are thinking. That means your friend will also what will do? Your friend will also keep this 3 in his hand and will pass this part to another clone. So from the perspective of the second clone, third clone, you are the first clone actually. Your friend is a second clone, and now we are considering the perspective of third clone. Third clone perspective is 2 plus 1. Right? And again, the third clone will also think in the same way, that it will keep 2 in its hand and will pass this part to the fourth clone. The fourth clone will see that something like it have only 1. So there is nothing to add. That means this fourth clone will realize, has to realize somehow, that I cannot call any more other clone. I don't need to do it because I have only one value 1. There is nothing to add. So I can simply return the result, the same value as a result, to the clone from where I was called. This clone is thinking. So what it will happen? It will return the result over here. That is 1. Okay, let's try to write in a different color so that you will realize. So basically what will happen? This clone will return this value 1 over here, because this is the something to add. And what this now this third clone will do? Third clone will see that. Now think from the third clone perspective. That third clone kept these 2 in its hand and pass this part to the fourth clone. Fourth clone when return the result, that means third clone is, and third clone think that okay, the result has returned from it's the fourth clone, so now it will add the result with whatever the value has its in its hand. So it will add these 2 and 1, and as a result it will become 3, and this 3 will get now written over here. Same thing, the second clone is also thinking in the same way, like it will get it has got the result of this, and this 3 was in its hand, so it will add this 3 and 3, right? This add will 3 and 3 equal to 6, and this 6 will be written over here. So from your perspective, you are the first clone. So from your perspective, that you see that you kept this 4 in your hand, and you passed this 3 to 1 all to the first clone, and from the first clone you have got the return result 6, and that you will basically add and you will get 10, that you will basically return to the main function, because from main function you were called, which is basically should be the result. You see, now what is the difference between these two cases? We have not considered a single function to do this. What I mean to say is that the clone that we are considering is actually are different functions having the same name, because and having the same definition also. Same name means actually same definition. So basically what you can say, that there is a function whose which has a lot of different clones. Each and every clone are communicating with each other in this way and in this particular order, so that ultimately I am getting this particular result. Now you see the difference with this iterative solution is that in case of iterative solution we have only one function. Within the function some codes are running, and that function is able to produce the result. But in case of recursive solution, we have instance of same function many times, such that each and every function thinks in the same way, or the approach of the function is the same way, but they are working on different data. For example, the job of this function is to find summation of 1 to 4, but job of this function is to find summation of 1 to 3, but job of this function is summation of 1 to 2, job of this function is summation of 1 up to 1. That's all. But their thinking strategy is same. They are trying to keep one value in its hand and passing the other values to the next clone. That means the definition of these 4 functions are actually same, and that is why we can say that actually they are same function, but they are basically different clone of the same function. Now how we can write this, how we can express this in a program, in a function? You see, so if we consider that we have a let's take a very simple way, that we have a main function. Within the main function, say we have n equal to 4. I'm not writing exact, I'm not following exact syntax of C, because I have not declared this n variable. Anyway, I hope you can realize. The most important point is that how this main function will call the function, and how the clone will, how I will express this different clone in the same function, right? So let's see. Uh, so here, from here, I can simply say that okay, let's call a function sum, okay, sum. equal sum within bracket this n, and suppose another taken as the result I've taken p. Okay, p equal to sum of n, that means sum of 4, that means this part. Okay, and then you will print the result p, which should print 10. And now how we will define this part, I'm sorry, now how you will define this um, particular sum function. So obviously from this uh, calling part of the sum function, one thing is clear, the sum must return some result, right? Sum function is returning some result. So, and what type of result? Obviously integer. So I can consider my return type of the sum should be int. The name is sum, and the parameter is only one value. So I can write int x, right? Now see, this sum is not a very simple function. It's not something an iterative function, so that I will write a for loop and then I will print. It is a recursive function. So somehow I have to recursively define this sum function so that one clone can call another clone, then then also it call another clone, some and so on. But when you will define the recursive function, don't think about all the clones. Just think about how the first clone will call the second clone. And also you have to keep in mind where I will stop. For example, it's 1. So with respect to the sum function, you see this sum function's responsibility is to find the result of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. So when the main function has called sum function first time, it's passing 4, right? So x should contain 4, and I know that according to the concept of recursive function, since fun2 calls fun2, that means there will be somehow a call of this sum function within this sum function again, right? Somewhere. But at that time, I must pass something. So what I can write over, how I can write here? I can say that okay, I can write I will keep this x in our hands. Say for example, I've taken a very simple, I'm just elaborating it with many lines, which is not maybe required in future. You will realize it, but just for keeping it simple, I'm doing this. For example, let's consider a equal to x. What does it mean? It means that whatever value you had is in a, and then uh, what I can say, somehow I can write like p equal to, or I mean not take p, suppose y equal to a plus sum of x minus 1. Then what will happen? What does it mean? This a contain the value, that means when it passed 4, a contain 4. So 4 plus sum within bracket, what it will pass? The result of this one is basically 3, right? So this sum function is calling another sum function, but here the parameter value is 3. So that means at that time what will happen? The second clone will be called, this one, whose responsibility will to find the summation of 1 to up to 3, and it will return the result over here. Okay, let's break it more so that you can realize it. So assume that let's write in this way, like uh, let's write y equal to sum of x minus 1. So it will basically find the result of 1 to 3, 1 up to 3, and then you see this 1 up to 3 that has to be added with this 4, that is this a, and the result I have got in y. So that means I can write that b equal to a plus y. That means a is 4, this one, this is my a, and this whole thing came in y, right? So a plus y will be added with b, and this b should return, so that I can get the result of 1 up to 4. But is it so easy? No, it is not still a proper recursive function. Reason is that when this sum will be called from main, and suddenly sum of this will sum of x minus 1 will be called, that means sum of 4 is calling sum of 3. It will call, then if you think for the definition of sum of 3 instead of 4, if you consider sum of 3, then sum of 3 will call sum of 2, sum of 2 will call sum of 1, sum of 1 will call sum of 0, sum of 0 will call sum of minus 1. There is no way to stop, it will never stop, but I have to stop here, I cannot move further. And where I have to stop? I have to stop where I will see the value of x is 1. There I have to stop. If it is 1, then I will return 1. If it is not 1, then I will return the added result. That is a difference. So that means we have to modify this program. This is not a correct program, but the structure look like same. For example, I can say that okay, let's you can say that okay, that if x is equal 1, then return 1. Directly, straightforward. If x is 1, then return 1. But else, if x is not 1, then I have a lot of things to do. For example, first we have to keep this 1 in our hand, because in this, for the this case or this case or this case, the maximum value x is not 1, it's 2 or 3 or 4. In that case, we will keep this 4 or 3 or 2, whatever number of clone in our hand. So this x in our hand, so I will keep this a equal to x as I have written, and then I will call a same function with a value less than the current value of this x. That means I will call the same thing, y equal to sum of x minus 1, and then we have to add this, right? So we can write b equal to a plus y, and that b we can return. So here our else part ends anyway, so in that case the bracket should be here, bracket should be here. Now I can merge these statements like in a two line. For example, I can write that uh, say for example a equal to, or I can write y equal to, I'm sorry, not y, I must say b. I can merge this statement and I can write b equal to x plus sum of x minus 1, and then return b. I can also merge these two statements, like I can directly write return within bracket x plus sum of x minus 1. Anyway, so maybe the only lighting only one in one line will be complicated. So whatever approach you can use, whatever simplicity you can use, doesn't matter, because you are in a learning stage. But now question is that how they will interact here. Let's see, let's try to realize from a diagram again. So suppose we have a main function here. Okay, so this is the, so suppose that this whole black board is actually your memory space, and this is for main, and within this main we have two things, one is n and one is p. So one is n and another is p, right? So this is n and this is p. Value of n is 4, and according to the logic this sum will be called, so it will call the sum function. Now what is the memory space present, what is the things present in the sum function? You see, within the sum function we have a variable x, and I'm taking this only this particular part, so b, variable b. Now just try to realize the situation that x, just check the statement, if x equal to 1 then return 1, is equal to 1. By the way, when this main will call the sum function, that means 4 will be passed. I mean, let's do one thing, don't write here because I want to write the order of the calling. So basically just let's copy this, so this n will get copied in x, we can easily understand, right? So this is order, I mean during calling or returning I'm keeping this order 1. Okay, okay. And then you see, if you check the logic of the sum function, if x equal to 1 then return 1, but x is not 1, x is equal to 4, so that means you will come in the else part and it will do something like this. What will happen, what is written in this line, that b equal to x plus sum within bracket x minus 1. So we have a function call. As soon as the processor will see there is a function called sum whose name is same, as the definition of the current function, then what will happen, it will call another sum function but physically they are apart. That is why, to realize this, I tell them that this is basically clone 1 and this is clone 2. Okay, and you see, since this is a clone, that's why you have the same thing over here present, that is x and b, the same structure we will have because they are clone. But difference is that when I have called the second clone from this first clone, then I have passed here x minus 1. That means the content of this clone will have 3, not 4. Remember, they are clone, so they will, the approach will be same. The strategy of execution will be same for the clones, but they may not work on the same data. Anyway, so this is order 2, calling order. And then in the same way it will think that x is equal to 1, no, not 1, it's 3, so it will call another clone. what will happen? Here also I will have the same structure, X and B, and it will pass basically 2. I hope now you can understand. Order 3, calling order. And same thing, this is also some function. Same thing, it's 2 not equal to 1, so it will call another clone. And it is 1, right? This is order 4, calling order 4, and this is 1. So now this is also the some function, and these are basically clone 3 and this is clone 4. And now you see that this is 1. So in the logic of some function, x equal to 1 become true for this particular clone as, right? And interestingly, one thing you see that since one clone is calling another clone, when this will come in else part, this addition is not completed, right? Because until and unless the next clone will return the result of 1 to x minus 1, addition is not possible. If addition is not possible, b will not filled up. So naturally you see that all b is still empty, right? Okay. Now with respect to the last clone, x become 1, so it will return 1. So that means this clone will start returning 1. Where it will return 1? It will return 1 actually in place of this part. So this 1 from the fourth clone is returned in this part of the third clone. When it will return, it will be added with this x. And what is the value of x? Value of x in the third clone is 2. This 2 will be added with this value 1 and result is 3. That 3 will get stored in this b. So now this b will have the value 3, right? The order is 5. It is returning order, that's why it's a different color I have taken. Okay. Same thing will happen here. As soon as b will get completed, what will happen? I have a return b statement. You see. So right now the control of the processor is on this clone. B has been computed in this clone, and now it will return. So it will return in this side. B will return. So that means this 3 will return where? This 3 will return from where this function was called, this clone. Now clone number 3 was called from this part of clone number 2, right? In this clone number 2, that means this 3 will return in this part of the clone number 2. And with respect to clone number 2, the value of x is what? The value of x is 3, right? That means that 3, the value of x 3, and whatever returned from the next clone, that was same value 3, will be added and stored in the b of the second clone. And now this b will be returned according to the logic, return b, because now you are on this clone. So now 6 will get returned where? From where this second clone was called and from where second clone was called. Again in the same way, second clone was called from this part of the first clone. So 6 will return here, and with respect to the first clone, this x is what? This x is 4. Sorry. right? So this 4 and whatever value that was written 6 will be equal to 10 b, right? And this b will again return where? Now this b will return from where this first clone was called. And from where the first clone was called? First clone was called actually from this main function. That means the v will return in this p variable of the main function. That means it will return to the main function, that is 10. And you see, this is the value that we actually want, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is equal to 10. Now what is the difference with respect to the iterative function? So this is our recursive function, right? This is recursive approach. And in case of iterative approach, what we will have? We'll have a very simple scenario that we will have some main function, obviously. Within the main function, we will have some variables, say for example n, as we have seen here, n and p. This is n and this is p. Value of n is 4, and this main function will call a function, say sum. Yes, but this sum function will no more call any other sum function from here. In case of iterative approach, it will, for example, if I follow the same logic, that means there will be some variable sum and I, a sum variable and I, and for example another variable will be called, I mean if I consider this 4 is not 4 I have written in hard code, 4 may be equal to say m, right? So m will be there, some I will be there for the loop variable, and another variable sum will be there, right? Now this n will get copied to m, obviously, this 4, and I is the loop variable which will keep on rotating until the loop will run, and this sum ultimately will contain the result 10, and then it will return. So only one call and one return, that's all. So this is what your iterative approach, and this is the difference. You see, if you compare the iterative approach with the recursive one, you will see that the number of lines that I had in recursive approach is very less. Actually, the main line is this one, because this is the recursive line. This particular line calls the same function in a different parameter, with a different parameter. So there is no such loop as if in the recursive function, but it is acting like a loop. The whole, you can say that the combination of execution of all the functions, all the individual clones, are actually representing something like a loop. The benefit that we will get in recursive function is that the realizing and expressing the logic, because in some cases you will see that, say, a large number of code you have to write in case of iterative approach, but if you think for a recursive approach, the line will be will less a lot. Even in some cases it is very easy to realize from a recursive point of view, but it's very difficult to realize from an iterative point of view. But there are a lot of difficulties also, some limitations also we have in this recursive approach. The most important thing is that recursive approach limitation we can realize from an example. Suppose that I want to I want to uh, find a particular Fibonacci value from a Fibonacci series in that using recursive approach. What is Fibonacci number? We all know that it starts from 0, then 1, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on, right? It's such that previous two value, if you add, you will get the third one. 0 plus 1 equal to 1, 1 plus 1 equal to 2, 1 plus 2 equal to 3, 2 plus 3 equal to 5, and so on. Now you see, that means you can say that some ith position's Fibonacci value is equal to I minus 1th position Fibonacci value plus I minus 2th position Fibonacci value. That means we can recursively write a equation to find a Fibonacci value at ith position in like something like fib of I. If I say that fib is a function which is finding the Fibonacci value at ith position, I can write fib of I is equal to fib of I minus 1 plus fib of I minus 2. Right? And this makes a recursion because this is the definition of fib of I have written. So when you will define a Fibonacci function with some value I, we have to write this one. That means this we will call two more fib function to find the value at I minus 1th position and I minus 2th position. Now what problem we will get here? You see, if you draw a very simple case with Fibonacci of 4, okay, Fibonacci of 4, uh, yes, or maybe Fibonacci of 5, you see, fib of 5 means what? Two things, fib of 4 and fib of 3, right? What does fib of 4 means? Fib of, sorry, fib of 3 as fib of 2. What does fib of 3 means? Fib of 2 into fib of 1, and this fib of 2 means uh, this is okay, so this is fixed in second position. First and second position is fixed, right? Is fixed, and based on that the other positions come. And now what is fib of 3? Fib of 3 is fib of 2 and fib of 1. Oh, by the way, sorry, it's not first and second, it is 0th and 1th position, so it should continue with 0th and 1, fib of 1 and fib of 0. This is also fib of 1 and this is fib of 0. This is also fib of 1 and it is fib of 0. Now you see a very, you know, interesting thing you can see here, that is fib of, there are multiple times we have actually evaluated the same thing. For example, we have evaluated fib of 4, fib of 3 over here as well as here. We have evaluated fib of 4 here, 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 and fib of 1 also many times. So that means if you want to do a recursive approach to find the Fibonacci of I, we will see that we have some waste of time during this finding, and that's why in some cases this recursive solution is slow than iterative solution. So one uh, um, drawback or limitation, let's write it. Sorry. So if we write the limitation one by one, we can say that in some cases recursion is slower than iteration. What is the second point? Can be. You see, if you watch this two difference here, you can I think understand. For example, with respect to space, the memory space, if you consider, for the same problem, finding result 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, we are actually here we are considering 1 2 variable from the main and 1 2 3, total 5 variables as a whole. That's all, right? But if you think for a recursive approach, you see the number of variable has been increased a lot, and in this case where the maximum value is 4, the number of variable is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 5, that is 10. Total number of variables that is actually allocated, the memory allocated for the variables, total number of variable is 10. Maybe the variable name is same, x and b, here also x and b, but it does not mean that this x and this x is same, right? You all know from the concept of scope, because they are in a different function. Maybe the name is same, but they are actually clone. So physically this x and this x is apart. So that means I can say that total 10 memory location has been allocated, but here total 5. The difference is only 5, but this difference will increase a lot if this value 4 will increase. For example, if I want to find a value f equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus dot 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 plus 100, that means 1 to 100 I want to find the result. What will happen? Obviously the clone, I mean it will not stop in clone 4, it will keep on continue for clone 100. So clone 1 to clone 100, that means total 100 clones, and each and every clone contain two variables at least, x and b. So total 200 variable space, that means 200 memory location only for clone, and the main have two variables, so 202. Let's just make a very numerical calculation. The total in this situation, when I will try to calculate a value 1 to 100, then total number of memory locations that I will require using recursive approach will be 202. But the number of memory location will not increase in case of iterative approach. That mean the number of memory location may be much higher than the number of memory location used in a iterative approach. So I can say the limitation is number of memory location can be much higher than number of much sorry can be much higher in recursive approach over iterative. Right. Another thing is also there. That is actually another point also present within the point number two. That is, you see, when we declared this, when you have seen the how this recursive function works from 1 to 4, one thing I hope you have noticed that when main function calls some function first clone, that first clone calls second clone, until the return starts from the last clone, all the memory locations are hold for the previous clones. You cannot delete that, right? That's why from this point of view also, you can say that since a lot of memory locations we is actually occupied on hold, that's why recursive approach require much higher memory location, much higher memory space over iterative approach. If we think for, you know, for a very complex problem, there you will see that there you can say that recursive approach require much more memory locations because it has to store many clone and they will on hold until return starts. So these are some set of you can say limitation, but they are not. It's not like due to this limitation we will try to avoid this recursive approach, because in some cases you will see in future, especially in case of data structure, an algorithm there is a subject. There you will see that there are some lot of complex algorithms, and those complex algorithms require uh, you know recursive approach to solve, because iterative approach is very difficult and complex to execute.